Hello and welcome. Welcome to Around the Town with Mark. We are a brand new show coming to you from the studios of SEC TV in Groton. Around the Town with Mark is going to feature all things happening in Southeast Connecticut. Your city, your town, your backyard. Maybe it's a favorite place to shop, a restaurant that you frequent, someplace that you go to have fun. We're going to be talking with and to all the things that make our area such a great, interesting place to live, to work, and of course to play. We hope that you're going to enjoy our show today and that you will be coming back to visit us often. Our topic today that we're going to be talking about is a topic that affects, I think, everybody. And that topic will be real estate. You don't have to be buying or selling. You could own, you can rent. But whether you know it or not, one way or another, real estate affects all of us. If you are selling, if you are buying, of course, it affects you directly. But real estate can also affect you in the rent that you may pay, or even the price of a gallon of milk. So today, our guest, I have very proud to introduce to you Cheryl Auerbach. Cheryl is a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway here in Groton. Cheryl, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so glad to have you here. So tell us a little bit about your work. How long have you been in real estate, and what kind of scope do you have? Tell us a little bit about what is real estate to Cheryl Auerbach.
Well, it is my passion. I have been in it now for 13 years and have seen a lot of changes in real estate. When I entered, actually, it was booming, and it continued to for many years. And then, of course, we saw the downhill slide.
Right.
And now we're hoping that we're stabilizing. So it's been exciting. It's been challenging, but it's, I think, in this area, very exciting. We have a lot of areas that we can promote inland as well as the shoreline.
Is real estate now, if someone is looking to buy or is looking to sell, what is the hardest thing to overcome? If you're a seller or if you're a buyer, is there one area that makes real estate particularly difficult right now?
You know, it's very, very, very local. So when somebody hears about prices or changes in the real estate market, it's great to hear about, but it doesn't always affect that person. So when somebody, which we're constantly getting calls and we're out on the road and somebody will talk to us about their property, they think that we can just price it right then and there, and you can't. It really has to have detailed information about the street, that community, that neighborhood. When they say real estate is local, it is absolutely true.
And I would imagine that pricing a piece of property right and pricing that property right from the very beginning, I would think would be extremely important.
Right. And that is, right now it's a spring market. So everybody is just about either on the market or going to be coming on the market. May 1st was huge. So I'm very busy actually today listing 2 more properties and this afternoon another one. So pricing it is almost to the day before. In other words, if I go out and I tell somebody that in 30 days ago that, you know, this is what you're thinking about putting your house on the market for, we chat about everything that's happening at that point. Of course, we're also chatting about what happened in the past, because the past is the sold comparables, and that's actually the real pricing information that the sellers need to look at.
Do you find that, is it difficult working with a seller to determine that right price? Do you find perhaps sometimes they have a fantasy that maybe they have a price in mind that is not realistic?
Yeah, it is always challenging, and it depends on the seller, how long they've been in the house. If somebody's been in the house for 25 years, it's a different conversation than somebody that has been in the house only 5 years because they bought at a different time. So yes, it is absolutely challenging. It's something that we just have to come very open-minded. We listen a lot. We understand that they've put a lot of money into it, maybe doing changes that haven't actually caught up to the street value. So we have to add that in as pluses and minuses. The neighbor's house could be the same, but they might have different upgrades. But maybe the seller that did the upgrades think that's going to value it a lot more than it really is. And it's hard. It's hard to pinpoint. It's a conversation that you just have to have and bring as much information as you can. Again, listening to why they think their house is priced this, and then sort of reasoning, coming up with a plan, because you can do that. You can come up with a plan to start and maybe, watch the market and then have to retract a little bit later.
And I would think it would be very difficult as a seller if 10 years ago they bought when the market was high,
Right.
and they now see that the homes around them that are similar are selling at a much lower price. Imagine that would be very difficult.
Yeah. And I think hopefully now with all the websites, sellers are more educated. We hope that they have seen, when they look at different websites, they have very many sites out there that value their estimates and things. Mm-hmm. And we're aware of that. And we know how inaccurate they can be. But on the other hand, we have to look at them so that we know where they're coming from and what they see and what they think. But again, it is something that we're sensitive to, and we're very sensitive to the sellers and what they think they need to get.
And I would imagine that it's a message that you need to get to your sellers, that you are the experts.
Right.
That you do this, it's your passion, you do this every day, you've seen it all,
right.
And they have to have a certain amount of faith in what you're telling them.
Right.
And
I think there's a little bit of pricing up because they think negotiating down is the way to go, and they want to have a cushion. But there's this real threshold. If you do price it right, we are always trying to price it to sell in 30 days. If not, then we try to price it to sell in 90 days. So there's a real value in getting it right, because you will get closer to 100% of your asking price if it's priced right from the beginning. And our goal around here, we usually get 95% of our asking prices when it's priced right. Seems to be our trend.
Do you find then if you go in and you think that you've priced this house correctly, and that house doesn't move in 30 days or doesn't move in 90 days, and then you start reevaluating the price of that house, do you find that something that's very difficult, one, for the homeowner to accept, and two, does that for a seller? How would a seller be looking at that? Do they look at it thinking, well, what's wrong with this house if they're taking the price down?
Yeah, actually, and hopefully we had that conversation right from the beginning, that if we felt that it was priced right and then something changed that was out of all of our control, whether or not it's just because 3 other houses on the street came on the market, 10,000 less, well, we can't control that. It is a problem if we're all equal in value. But there's other ways besides just reducing price. Sometimes we actually remove furniture. We'll paint. We'll just do some other things that, from feedback from all the showings we've had, if there's a particular issue with that house, it's not necessarily price, but it's just an issue with the house. So if we can correct that, right now we're actually considering staging empty houses, because we do have a lot of them. We're actually putting furniture back in, but we're putting the type of furniture back in that the buyers, we feel, are looking for, either something more modern. A lot of times when people leave furniture in, there is either too much or it's a different style, and people just can't envision. So we're adjusting that after 30 days as well. Finding that maybe we just need to just clear out 3 or 4 pieces, lighten the room up, make it look larger, have them paint just that room. So there's a combination of things that we need to do.
So an empty house is not necessarily the best or easiest house to try to sell.
Yeah, really, it depends. If the furniture wasn't right to begin with, if it's something that's 30-year-old pieces of furniture, and they can empty it because it's an estate sale, we then say yes, because that vision will be embraced by the buyers. Oh, this is an older house, because they're going to see that. So in that case, yes, we want old. But then there's this other point when you've got a house that's empty and it has lost its charm completely. I'm actually doing that with a property. We're actually going to put furniture back in it.
Okay.
But light and airy and make it look more beachy, so we're going to try to change the idea. But yeah, it backfired a little bit on that one, because the concept was, it's got a lot of space, you could do what you want, but people felt there was no charm, so now we got to bring the charm back.
Is that one of many tools that you use to try to sell a house? What would be the top 3 that you would suggest to a seller that they do in order to put their house on the market and have a realistic period where they could actually try to sell this?
Well, it's funny. Now that it's springtime, it's kind of like the new number 1 that's popped up is curb appeal. It's just that time of the year when people are driving by, because that, you have the sign out, people are around, they actually search out properties and they'll drive by. And if they don't like what they see on the outside, we're not getting them inside.
Okay.
So that seems to be right now what we're aiming for. Photos is really important. Right now we have options to, declutter the inside because you've got one shot at grabbing the interior. So that would probably be number 2, is just really looking at the furniture that doesn't need to be there, emptying it out, and really just freshening the house up as much as possible. Okay. I think for sellers that know that they have some details that are defective, they probably should fix them, because it is a first impression. If you want to sell in 30 days, you've got that option. And buyers are kind of waiting. If they haven't made a decision, they're waiting for the new opportunity for the new property. So when the new property goes on, it's alerted to so many buyers because they've tagged different websites that they want to see a certain, usually by price or by location. So that's it. You got to grab them fast. So it is, having the sellers having it shiny and ready is important.
So then perhaps 2 dreaded words would be as is.
Yeah.
Is that something that if someone hears that they don't want to put in the money that they need to, that you would recommend to them to fix it up?
Yeah, because
you have to sort of revert to letting them know that, well, we know it's not perfect, but we're not doing anything about it?
Right. I mean, if there's disclosures that sellers have to fill out that say these are the defects of the house, and that's a smart thing to do because you're declaring it, and it's something that the buyer then knows they have to do, and hopefully it's priced right to do that. But there is no such thing as really as is, because it's a determination once it's inspected, if it's a structural issue, where that as is will fall into place and how far that can go with a mortgage company too.
Oh, well, I suspect is something that a lot of us don't think about when we're looking at a house on the market or to sell a house. It's not just, I guess, what we think that we can get for that house, but what is the bank going to be willing to do?
Right.
Very few people can really come in and offer a cash sale, I would imagine, these days.
Right.
So that equation of it having to go through the bank.
Right. It's like a second inspection, because you do your home inspection after, which is just for structural issues. And then after that, the bank sends somebody, and they're looking to, depends on the type of loan, but if it's a government loan, they're looking almost as an inspector. So things do have to be up to snuff. So the as-is gets caught up at that moment. So sometimes if we have a property that does have a lot of issues, we do declare that right away, saying that it may have difficulty getting government financing. So if it's conventional loan, that's fine. If there's a lot more that you can move in a direction that the buyers have options to correct later. But certain government loans demand that it all be up to, everything in working order before closing.
And that certainly is another reason why you earn your pay, because it's very important for you to advise that seller of that process from the beginning.
Right.
So a lot of them that don't have that experience may not be looking ahead at having to go through inspections, as you mentioned twice.
Yeah, it's like 3 steps. Once you get the offer, it's just the beginning.
It's not over.
That's
You've got a lot more work to do before you can breathe your breath of relief.
Right.
Yeah. Now, as the flip side as a buyer.
Yep.
Again, what are there 3 things, let's say, that you also would advise a buyer if they're looking at a property and they're looking to make an offer as far as what they're asking for that property, and are there 3 top things that you would advise a buyer?
Yeah, the buyers they are so educated now that they know almost as much as we do about the property. Now it's sort of like, you're right, when they identify an exact property, the first thing they'll say is either they have a number in mind, this is what I want to offer, and as a realtor, it is their offer. We cannot control that. We present anything that they tell us. I mean, that is their money.
Right.
But if they're asking for advice, it's almost like what we did with the seller. We're going to turn around and we're going to evaluate that house and do the comparables of that particular local neighborhood, what has sold, what are the prices, maybe comparing dollars per square foot, because sometimes you have to do that. If you have a 2,000 square foot versus 3,000, you have to equalize it somehow. And then you just have to look at the amenities and see if it's that much more important to the buyer, if they're willing to pay a little bit more for certain updates. But it does absolutely have to fall into place with the bank appraiser.
So there you go again. You've got those steps with the bank going through on the buyer's side. Right. Now you've got to go through some steps with the sellers, with the buyers.
Right.
And again, you've got to then worry about them, I guess, qualifying. Do you often require, if you're with a seller, do you require them to get a certain amount of qualification before they even start looking?
Yeah, because there's so many loans right now, and each buyer has its own history, its own story. So banks actually have probably 3 choices for each buyer. And it sometimes does narrow down to which house they want and the type of house and which loan that they'll go back to. But our concern is more just that they talk to a bank. The bank has pre-qualified them. There's 2 different words, pre-qual and pre-approval. They've merged sort of into one word, but it is at least enough of a gauge for us to feel confident that we're representing somebody that can actually afford to purchase that particular house. We also engage with that banker. We really do have to have a one-on-one conversation to make sure, because when an offer is being written, you have to determine rates, the commitment dates, the actual, what type of loan, what type of time frame they want. So we do have to interact a little bit, and then hear for our confidence, that this particular amount will work, and if not, we can negotiate maybe a little higher, and we're confident that they can go a little higher, that the bank would approve it. So we do like to chat with their banks, whoever we're working with as a buyer.
Now, in general, is there a particular price point market right now that's doing better than others?
Yes, yeah. We really, because we, right now in Groton, New London area, we have EB. EB has been our best source right now, and that has absolutely stimulated our market. But I would say they're first-time home buyers. You do have to have a 2-year work history to start the mortgage process. So we've kind of are just getting there, because these employees have been here now for a year or 2. So now they're coming out to buy. So they, when I want to say in general, 350 and under, 350,000 and under is our market. That's, they particularly, EB, young employees, they like to buy condos or first-time home houses. They like to buy a house that has 2 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms, because they might want to bring in another person with them.
Oh, right.
To share the mortgage,
a renter,
yeah,
that type of thing.
Yeah, so we're looking, but yeah, I would say that's our huge source right now. That's been wonderful.
How about new homes versus antique homes? Because we have, in our area, as everyone knows, we've got a lot of very beautiful antique villages between Mystic and several in Groton, the Eastern Point Historic District. We've got the Groton Bank area. So there's not really a lot of new homes, I guess.
There isn't.
Are these older homes that are 100 years old, are they a difficult sell?
Yeah, it really, isn't it? It's always a trend, it seems, that we are known for that. We're known for historic homes in our area.
Right.
And younger people don't know how to embrace them. They're just sort of, they like them, and they always call it, that's where their grandmother lived. But it is hard for the younger people to do that, because they do need upkeep. They have a lot of maintenance requirements. Yeah. You've got to really hone in on that type of buyer that wants them, and there is a lot less of those buyers. Most of the people coming to the shoreline seem to want to downsize, and most of these antique homes are large.
Yes.
So that, that's part of the, I like it, but it's not suiting my needs. Most Victorian homes don't have 1-floor living. They have everything upstairs and long hallways and steps. So it has become challenging.
And I guess that also leads to another factor that everyone has to be concerned about is taxes.
Yeah.
And you can't, if you're looking to buy a house, you have to not only be able to afford to pay the price that the seller is willing to sell it to you, but you've got to afford those taxes.
Well, and that's interesting. It depends on where somebody is coming from. When I was out this weekend showing houses, we had a lot of New Jersey, New York, Hartford buyers coming down.
Yeah, really?
And their taxes are actually higher than ours. Their mill rates are higher. So it's a perspective issue. So when they looked at ours, and we explained that we have, a town tax, and then sometimes in Groton we'll have a city tax, we'll have a Mystic tax, we'll have different taxes that are adding into that. Even when you show them that, they're not surprised. So again, it depends on where you're coming from. If it's, somebody looking to buy a second home here, and they're coming from it's not as big a factor as we think as well. So, but it is very local for all of us.
Is with all our different communities here, do you find that some are easier than others to sell? Do people gravitate on one side or the other of the river, of Thames River, or are there any particular pockets that you find are easier to sell than others?
Right now, it seems once somebody identifies an area, they seem to really hone in on that area, and they'll stay in that area. It is, we in Groton alone, we have Noank, we have Mystic, Groton City. it is interesting that people pick one of those towns and that's it. They focus on that little section,
Really?
even though it's a town. But then again, if you have somebody from out of town, they don't know the difference. So we do show them from the East Line shoreline all the way up to the Stonington shoreline. So they're more open-minded and they're looking all the way through. So it is, I think it's gotten better in that we've regionalized in that respect. So when we do say we sell along the shoreline, we really do. And then we, each town has its own little charm and value. I, of course, have an affection for Groton City, Eastern Point, and I think we have probably, more to offer than most little towns. So we really have to work hard at making sure they know about us.
Well, that's a very good point, and
Yeah.
I imagine that's a good tool that you can use for a buyer, because our area here has so much to offer. We've got such great history. We've got so many wonderful activities and things to do and to see. Parks.
Yeah, we do.
And
It is.
so
The city
much.
of Groton it's to me my passion to sell, because it's endless to talk about, and I think people are wide-eyed when they hear about it. They had no idea, that we are just more or less a very small entity of the town, but we have the golf course, we have the marinas, we have beaches, we have the Washington Park, we have wonderful services, and we have a lot of activities. I mean, we have the whole, the riverfront that is very entertaining, and we have a lot of activities every weekend. So it is one that I promote constantly. I live in Eastern Point, so I like to sell properties down there, bring buyers down there. But
So it's you've got a built-in tool.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
that both the sellers and the buyers can take advantage of, I
Right.
would think.
Right.
Tell me, I would imagine in your position as being a predominant realtor around here, you must be involved in a lot of other activities that also probably work well with doing real estate. Could you tell us a little bit about
Well,
some?
in being a member of the historic district, which is just Eastern Point,
Right.
that's, again, another passion, just promoting our historic homes.
And that, I guess, like any historic district would be, is to sort of work with your homeowners to make sure that they can live modern, but
Right.
be
But
respectful,
be authentic
to keep the
Yeah.
charm of historic neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So that would be a very good thing.
Yeah. So that's an involvement. And then recently just got involved with the city again, the City of Groton Economic Development Commission. And that's trying to help promote what we can offer in our section of town, which is mostly Thames Street along the waterfront. And we have quite a few other pockets, but we're really trying to promote value in trying to get businesses to come back down there. And we do seem to have a lot of young folks, EB people that want to come live. So if we can continue to build that, it would be, I think, a nice advantage for where the trend is going. People want to live near activities, restaurants, walkable distance to things. So we're working really hard at trying to look at ways to do that and bring new businesses to Thames Street in particular in Groton City.
Yeah, well, people tend to love being anywhere near or on the water.
Water.
So that's really.
Yeah.
Everybody loves that. Everybody loves the water view.
Yeah.
But of course, we've got all these wonderful beaches that they can just go and visit, which
Right.
is terrific.
Right.
Do you see any particular trends coming up of any changes in the market that you're sort of looking at? Do you see anything on the horizon that's maybe going to make the market a little bit easier for people or more difficult?
It's really jobs driven.
Okay.
We really need the jobs to come here. I mean, we really built a lot of houses around here, from East Lyme into Stonington, that are bigger homes, and we've lost that particular big group of buyers. The group that's looking is smaller homes. We have a merging market right now, I think. We have the first-time home buyers, and then we have a lot of downsize buyers, which they want to get rid of their big homes, and they want to buy the smaller homes. So we have a merging market right now, and that's why I think that 350 and under has been so busy in trying to find homes. We have a real need for ranch houses, ranch-style one-floor living.
Really?
Yeah, and we don't have enough because that's not what was being built for many, many years here.
So I guess from what you've just said, there could be a big discrepancy then in the value per square foot of a big old house on the water versus a smaller ranch house.
Yeah.
You probably, for the price square footage, you might get more for the ranch than for the big waterfront mansion?
Yeah, because there is a threshold, right?
Yeah,
That you can't get so much more for a big house. There's a number that kind of maxes out with that.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So necessarily having that big, beautiful house may sometimes be a little bit more difficult.
It is, people coming up from the other end of the state, they're infatuated with our big homes. So, I mean, we just need more of them to come. And I think that's hopefully our trend, is that they're starting to come back again. I didn't see a lot of those buyers for a couple of years, and now I'm seeing a lot more. And they're coming back and they're looking for, enough of a lifestyle for them to be able to manage it for themselves, but then have the family come back. Okay. So we're hoping that the well-kept homes by the water that have a lot to offer with activities, we'll start bringing them back, and we can start selling these big homes again for that particular group. So there's still value. I mean, the big homes it's a buyer's market. For anybody that's looking for a beautiful, Victorian or colonial in downtown Mystic or Eastern Point or New London, stunning homes that are available right now at very good prices.
Yeah, I sometimes think I could make a hobby out of just going to open houses, because I love architecture also, and I'm also in the Eastern Point Historic District, as you know, so I'm involved in that. I live in an old house. I love old houses, and I go to places like Norwich and things like that, and you just drive down some of these streets and you see these fabulous big old houses, and I just want to knock on their door and say, can I look?
Yeah, it is. What they have done inside these homes are very modern. And the outsides, are just very authentic. So it's a nice blend now that everybody's been doing. But it's definitely going to come back. I think it's just right now we just need the jobs and the buyers that can afford it. So we're sort of more depending on outsiders coming down to buy the bigger homes and buy the Victorians. So I think that it'll change. Everything's cyclically, it'll bounce around again. But right now we just have probably a higher inventory than we would like of the bigger homes.
Well, Cheryl, I thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I'm sure our audience has learned a lot. There's a lot to know.
Yes.
And Cheryl obviously is terrific. I thank my guests. I thank all of you out there to be watching Around the Town with Mark. I certainly hope that you're going to be tuning in often. We're going to have lots and lots of fun shows coming up. And we're very excited to be able to produce these for you, and we hope you come visit us often. So again, thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Thank you, staff. Around the Town with Mark looks forward to next time.